What's happening, plebs? Doing a quick top 5 countdown of side deck cards for DDD, which are coming at the end of the month. Obviously, a lot of you guys are preparing for that, either playing it, learning the combos, learning how to play against the deck, and of course that importantly means that you have to side against it. So this is a quick top 5 countdown. Again, this is kind of just my opinion, and it's, you know, subjective depending on going first or second, the format, the event. So take everything with a grain of salt. Again, this is just more of a guideline rather than a rule of thumb.
Must die.
So at number 5 we have Vanity's Fiend and Vanity's Ruler. Now you're probably wondering why I'm including Vanity's Ruler in that. It's mostly for the mirror match, but first beginning with Vanity's Fiend. If your deck is able to facilitate some kind of like special summon and then you contribute over with a Vanity's Fiend, DDD actually have no main deck out. There is, unless they're playing something like Eclipse or Dark Hole. In terms of the actual DDD engine, they don't have an out to a special summoned monster, Vanity's Fiend, because, well, none of their monsters have like inherent like destruction or targeting. They have Orthos, which pops back row, but obviously that doesn't deal with monsters. Vanity's Fiend, again, that's kind of an interesting one, but basically what you can do is in the mirror match, you can make Vanity's Ruler. It does require 2 tributes, but the deck is actually really good at summoning without a normal summon. So you can actually put down 2 guys in a DDD mirror match and tribute over with Vanity's Ruler, and then summon out stuff on your next turn to continue playing. And if it's a mirror match, like I said, Vanity's Ruler, Vanity's Fiend, they're not going to have an out to this. They'll probably side in Kaijus and hand traps against you. So in order to counter side that, it's Vanity's Ruler. So in the same way in the BA match, for example, Burning Abyss used to get Max Seed, and then in game 2 they would just drop Vanity's Fiend. Maxi essentially just becoming sort of useless there. So that's the whole idea behind it, and I'd recommend you give it a shot. It's actually a pretty cool deck. Shout out to Duncan. So number 4 we have what I've been going to classify as the Banished stuff. So this is obviously a going first side. If you're going first, you can side in things like Darklaw if your deck facilitates it. You can side in Di-Fi, Macrocosmos, and different Dimension Ground potentially. It's really hard for DDD to play without a graveyard. They can play without a graveyard because they can still fuse, they can still use their slime, and they can still make a guy. But the problem is they don't have much going for them after that. There isn't really much further plays that they can make after they can like fuse like one guy, and they have to use up their whole hand for it and basically go neg to make a vanilla, because the Genghis uses the effect to summon from the graveyard, and if they don't have a graveyard because you have Banish in place, well, what are they playing? They're playing might as well be a Baphomet at that point. So yeah, the reason this isn't higher is because obviously a lot of decks can't really facilitate banishing things. So if you have something like Macrocosmos up in your Pendulum deck, that's going to hurt you severely as well. But the general idea is that obviously if you go first, set Macrocosmos, you can kind of just win from there on. So this is why this is only number 4. Number 3, I like to call this the budget player's choice. Perhaps not anymore because this thing has skyrocketed in recent months, but I've always been a fan of this engine. It is the Artifact engine. If your deck is able to facilitate 4 or 5, maybe even 6 cards siding in going first, obviously you have to go first, don't side us in going second, you're able to take out some kind of like mini engine from your main deck, put in artifacts, activate Sanctum in the standby phase, Scythe. Thanks for coming. DDD can't play. They actually just cannot play. They can potentially Pendulum Summon, potentially like get a Ragnarok with like Thomas, but it's just so impossible. I really don't think they can do that without using Genghis of some sorts. So Artifact engine, extremely good, especially if you have some way of popping your own Scythe. So for example, let's say you hard draw the Scythe instead of the Sanctum. If your deck has some kind of way where it can pop your own back row, perhaps in a really convoluted way, like Full Metal Fusion on Orichalc target your own Scythe, that kind of thing, it gets a little bit better. But generally, if you just activate Sanctum in the standby phase, summon Scythe, thanks for coming. They can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's a really good card. I would highly recommend it. So especially if your deck can facilitate the self-destruction kind of thing. Number 2, I'm going to have these in the same category, and you're probably going to be a bit confused as to why I have Dimensional Barrier and Kaijus as the same thing, despite the fact they're very different. I think that these cards are unequivocally the best going second cards or going first cards, depending on which one, Kaiju or D-Barrier. Going first, you have D-Barrier. Literally just flip this card and call fusion. There's nothing they can do. The good thing is that DDD can't really play around it. They can sometimes make like Thomas Ragnarok or something like that. Sometimes they can make a synchro. But these normally require you to go through the route of summoning Flame Genghis and then using Genghis effect to bring back things, and then you synchro. That's kind of the idea. Generally, it's really hard to make synchros or XE plays without fusing first. The other important thing is that DDD require themselves to be able to search out their combo pieces and then make a play. So it's really hard for them to bait out unless they just assume you have D-barrier and then purposefully search out bad cards. So for example, they have to like search gate and then get the slime. But if they know you're playing D-barrier, then they could potentially search something else, which makes their play suboptimal and forces them to play awkwardly and badly. Which is why I think this card is so good, because if they know you have D-barrier set, they're going to be searching out bad combo pieces and make very suboptimal plays just to try play around it. And if you do have the D-barrier and they do decide to go for it anyway and search the slime to fuse and you call fusion, well, like I said, it's literally just thanks for coming. Now the second part as well is kaijus. Now kaijus are probably the second best, because we're not at number 1 yet, the second best cards for going second against DDD. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of DDD first turn boards in my guide that I have, which I'll link down in the description, where I show you how to play the deck and Duncan does some combos. You can see that a lot of the deck's first turn plays include things like 38, Siegfried, Crystal Wing, all this kind of stuff, like monster flood, pseudo floodgates kind of thing. So what you're doing is that you have no real way of dealing with their board because they turn off your spells, so you can't side in things like Dark Hole and Raigeki, which are really, really bad against this deck because of Siegfried and 38. So what you have to resort to is kaijus. Sometimes even Lava Golem, maybe even Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode thing. If you're feeling extra spicy, you could side that. But kaijus generally facilitate the best thing. Kaiju over like the Siegfried, activate Eclipse or something like that potentially, or activate Hanger and go from there if you're playing ABC, etc. Dealing with the monsters going second is extremely important. There's no real other thing in the game that deals with monster floodgates as best as kaijus do. So, like I said before, however, if they're playing Vanity's Fiend or Vanity's Ruler, these cards obviously become worthless. So yeah, that's something to take into consideration as well. But generally, people aren't going to be playing Vanity's Fiend and Vanity's Ruler and DDD. Depends, we'll see. But the kaijus deal with generic dirt DDD first turn boards extremely well. So give it a shot. And finally, at number 1, the best cards, and the reason why I've put them at number 1 is because these cards are good going first and going second, and generally all of them are really great. And this is generic hand traps. Ghost Ogre, Veiler, DD Crow, Mike C. This is the order that I would rank them in personally, as to from worst to best. But literally any of these drawn and used at the right time can potentially just shut down DDD. If you go first, set up your board, and then finish with a hand trap in your hand, that is so strong, especially if it's Maxi. Going second, if you drop Maxi, they can essentially just make one guy and pass. If they play into it, well, they're going to give you a lot of cards. They're going to let you draw into your kaijus, etc., because you've sided for going second. There's so many things that these hand traps do. Maxi obviously being the most deadly, without a doubt. It completely shuts down the deck. You also have the option of Ghost Ogering the gate. That can sometimes completely shut down the play because they can't search out the right combo piece. Ghost Ogre on Flame Genghis can sometimes be really big. Veiler is extremely good as well. Simply Veiler the Flame Genghis and they can't play. Even if you just Flame Genghis the Kepler, sometimes they can just pass there because they need to search out the gate to get the other combo piece or search out the fusion. But Veiler on the Flame Genghis, extremely powerful. And one more card I wanted to talk about is DD Crow. DD Crow, phenomenal card. It's actually really crazy. As soon as they use Flame Genghis to target something in the graveyard like Lamia, you DD Crow it and they can't fucking play. They actually just can't play because they've gone so far and they've committed so much to their combo, this one line of play, that if their Flame Genghis doesn't resolve, and Flame Genghis is so central to the DDD combos that if you stop the Flame Genghis in any way, then the deck just falls apart from that stage generally. Ghost Ogre, I think, probably being maybe the weaker one, but DD Crow, phenomenal. Veiler, very strong against Flame Genghis, and Maxi just outright wins you the game sometimes, especially if you go first and finish with like any of these hand traps. That's why I think they are a whole league ahead of the other cards in this top 5, because they are fantastic going first, fantastic going second, And literally all of them are good, and they're good against other decks, because if you play Maxi and it's a staple card in your side deck, you can play this against Mermail, you can play this against Metal Foes, you can play this against, like, maybe not so much Metal Foes, but like generally Maxi doesn't have a bad matchup essentially this format. So it's a stable side card, you're not going to be missing much from your side deck slot, it's just so versatile and very efficient. DD Crow, again, extremely powerful, like I said. Valor on the Flame Gang is very strong, and even Ghost Ogre has its uses. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, as always, share, etc, etc. Give me some feedback in the comment section, and I'll see you next time.